Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KitBadger.com, out here for another episode of the 2021 Coast to Coast Tour. Picking up where we left off in, I think, High Point, North Carolina, at our amazing hotel. The one with the roof that may or may not collapse on the third floor due to water. But after waking up, getting a little bit of coffee, it's time to hit the road again, this time heading down for another range day, down by Ellerbe, North Carolina. So loaded up, drove down, made one stop just to grab some more water, some more ice, some lunch stuff, and then ground out the rest of the miles. I guess it's more or less south of where we are in High Point, North Carolina, and went down to Ellerbe. Pro tip, if you're gonna go to Coleman Creek Training Center, amazing facility, make sure you actually use the address in Google Maps, because if you put it into Apple, it'll route you just some random street in the middle of town. I don't know, but ended up going down there and got a quick tour from Ian, one of the owners. Really amazing range facility, and we're like, this one is gonna work perfect. So hopped back on the bus, drove out there, started setting up. This range was actually probably one of the cooler ranges. On the one hand, as a facility, amazing facility. They have like 100-yard zeroing range, a really cool pistol range, all kinds of different pistol steel out there. And then I want to say their long range goes out like 1,200 or further, their KD range, which is pretty cool, especially if you're somewhere where usually you can't shoot very far, like places in North Carolina and the surrounding areas. But the range we were on, it was really cool. Basically kind of unknown distance, a bunch of steel, and kind of scattered throughout this kind of gully with a bunch of trees. Kind of much more applicable to like shooting. Unknown distances within about 300 yards. So we ended up setting up most of our steel for kind of the pistol side, and then had all the other steel that was already arrayed out there to be able to shoot on. Really cool setup. And then of course setting up our guns basically left to right, starting with our 22s, 9mm, 300 Blackouts, 7.62 by 39, 5.56, and 308. We managed to actually get set up pretty timely manner, and that was nice. Able to just kind of take a couple deep breaths before people started arriving and then getting into it. Had everything laid out for people to shoot. So after we went through the safety brief and the med brief and kind of went over some of the guns that were brought out for the tour, people got to get after it. From Q, our title sponsor, we had pretty much their entire lineup, whether it was the Fix in 308 or Honey Badger SD or my Honey Badger pistol with the Trash Panda silencer, and then all of their cans too, to include the Erector 9 on one of the ZEV OZ9s that was sent out, or the High Point Carbine 995 and the High Point Gen1 Yeet Cannon, both with Erector 9s. Tons of fun to shoot, especially with that subsonic 9mm. And then of course we had Q cans on pretty much every gun that was out there. And Brownells, another sponsor, ended up sending out two BRN 180s, one in 5.56 and one chambered in 300 Blackout. With those, have cherry bombs on them, and then the Plan B, which allows you to basically retrofit other silencers so it'll go onto the cherry bomb. So on those two guns respectively, had a Infinity X and a Mystic X from Liberty Cans. Both really fun guns to shoot. And 22s, always fun to shoot. We had my son's Savage Rascal, which was cut down and threaded by Sawtooth Rifles with an Erector 22 on there, and then a Ruger Charger, as well as a Glock 44, I guess it would be, both sent out by Shooting Surplus. Both respectively with silencers, the Erector 22 on the Glock 44, and then the El Camino on that Charger, which was also in the chassis by SB Tactical. Really fun little gun. And from our friends over at Radian Weapons, two Model 1s, a 10.5-inch 5.56, which had, I believe we had the Thunder Chicken on there, really fun, Scalarworks PEAK Iron Sights, and then also their 17.5-inch Radian Model 1 with a EOTech and Magnifier on a Unity riser and mount with a jumbo shrimp on the end of it. That thing pretty much a laser beam. Really fun to shoot that, especially off of a tripod. And speaking of 5.56, also had my prototype sugar weasel out there. Serial number 1, 12 3/4 inch barrel with a jumbo shrimp and a 1:8, one of the new optics made by Brownells. Amazing Japanese glass. And that thing, again, definitely a favorite out there. In that gun, I actually have cues, I guess it's a pre-production of their drop-in AR triggers. Really incredible triggers, super short, clean reset. And from our friend Matt Yore over at Sawtooth Rifles, beautiful custom bolt gun. Same gun actually that ended up winning the 2018 USASOC Sniper Challenge. Incredibly smooth, thing's pretty much a laser beam. On it had the 5-25 scope, also by Brownells, using that Japanese glass, really nice and clean, and the full Nelson direct thread silencer on there. With that, it just makes it easy. In part, the gun is heavy, it's also very well made, with that silencer on it. Like, all these things come together for a really incredible shooting experience. Awesome, awesome rifle. Then, also from our friends over at Shooting Surplus, one of the more iconic guns of the 21st century, Knight's Armament SR25, with the Attacker 1-8 in the Unity mount, also B.E. Myers Maul on there. Really fun gun, especially with that Trash Panda silencer. And yeah, really cool gun to be able to shoot. Lastly, Occam Defense. Incredible manufacturer of really high-end AKs. They're actually south of me in Moscow, Idaho. And yeah, that thing they sent out is incredible, especially shooting with it, with the half Nelson silencer on there, direct thread, really, really fun gun. And that one, it was cool to see people shoot it. Like, a lot of people have shot AKs and they're like, meh, okay. And then shooting that, they're like, okay, I get it. And that was kind of my reaction when I shot it too. Really cool gun. And that, as well as some other guns, are actually gonna get auctioned off starting July 15th, 2021. That auction will go about 24 hours, and it's gonna be an online auction. Regardless of where you are, you can participate and ultimately get yourself some cool stuff, whether it's some of these guns that are on tour, as well as some of the silencers and other stuff. Really cool stuff, and all the money actually goes in support of SOCF, Special Operation Care Fund. Amazing organization, 100% pass through. All the money actually goes to helping veterans in need, whether it is on the PTSD side or drug addiction, alcohol addiction, or family counseling, all those things, which really, really important. But had a great time out there at this range day. And why not a little competition? So we did a pretty fun one, and it's interesting kind of throwing things in the mix that you don't really think about, but as soon as that pro timer goes off, you're like, I know how to do this. And by way of example, basically just loading a magazine. So the way it worked, this little competition we did, was on the buzzer, you'd grab 2 rounds out, load them either static or while you're moving, make your way over to the Radian Model 1, the one with the 17.5-inch barrel and the jumbo shrimp on there, and sitting there in a tripod. And you basically had to traverse over, shoot the hostage swinger at about 50 yards, and then traverse back. And probably between like 150, 200 yards, there's a plate out there. You had to get both your hits, and you had to do it pretty quick. Really fun little competition. Eventually, everyone having gone through it, ended up with our winner. They got to pick out a brand new pair of Magpul glasses from our friends over at Magpul, and then everyone got to go ahead, dig through, find themselves a t-shirt Q had sent out. Pretty sure at this point we may or may not have been out of larges and extra larges, but get what you get. But since we have some other goodies, why not one more competition? So what we ended up doing was a little thing that I basically referred to as sling appreciation. That Knight's Armament SR25 is an amazing gun with all that stuff on there, or even slick for that matter, kind of a pig. So on the buzzer, you basically had to pick up the gun and you had to hold it for 15 seconds. Timer would go off again, I'd immediately hit it again. At which point you'd retrieve your magazine of 1 round, load, make ready, break an offhand shot at 50 yards. Not a big deal, right? 15 seconds, no problem. It got to be a big deal. Like it definitely starts to fatigue you, just holding that thing static and then trying to get that offhand shot with a pretty heavy gun. But people did it, and once again, we had a winner. This time our winner, because sling appreciation, little competition, they actually got to pick out a contour sling from Lunar Concepts. Definitely grateful for those guys pitching in some slings, but overall, really fun time out there, having a good time with great people out there on the range. Eventually, packed up everything and headed in to go have dinner with a couple friends. Really cool, all of it. I mean, the range days, I really appreciate the opportunity for people to come shoot some really cool stuff, but it's the people that come together at the end of it that really make it. Really amazing group out there, and this range day absolutely continued with that tradition. Great group of people out there. And definitely grateful for Coleman Creek Training Center. Really incredible range facility. If you happen to be local to kind of that Ellerby area, probably worth it. It's not a public range, which is a huge plus. It's actually membership, so there's a barrier for entry, so you don't get the guy out there that like wants to shoot a TV or something like that on public land, which is a huge plus. But overall, one more awesome range day. Made it back to the hotel late that night, jumped in the pool, because why not? End the day with a little bit of swimming after a long hot range day, and then finally settled in to get some sleep. Be sure to join us as we continue the journey on the 2021 Coast to Coast Tour. And as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time. Silencer on there, really cool gun. Actually, that among some other, jeez.